Welcome, everyone, back to Anonymous Addiction, the Deprogramming podcast. I'll be your host, Bobby C. Now, today we're going to be talking about step 7. If you really pick up the big book, the big book in Alcoholics Anonymous, step 7 is one paragraph. If you ever go to a big book study or a 12 and 12 study, the big book study will say, when ready, we say something like this: my creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. We have then completed step 7. Now, if you were in a religious organization, Catholic, Protestant, Methodist, any type of religion, you'll be okay in Alcoholics Anonymous, because Alcoholics Anonymous is a religion. Now, if you look in the 12 and 12, step 7, it says, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Now, these steps are codified for a reason, 1 through 12. The reason is to get you to step 12. Now, step 12, right here, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. This step is probably about 20 pages. It's 3 times more than any other page. The steps are codified to get you to help other alcoholics, recruit other members, and do the 12-step work with a sponsoree. So you can become a sponsor. You have a sponsor, your sponsor has a sponsor. So they're codified to get you somewhere. And that place is to step 12. Now, people will say, Bobby, I don't go to step meetings. I don't care if you're going to step meetings or not. These steps are subliminally getting into your subconscious or your conscious. Subliminal, of a stimulus or mental process below the threshold of sensation or consciousness. It's below. It's getting to your subconscious. Perceived by or affecting someone's mind without their being aware of it. So if you think you're not getting affected by these steps, you are. This step here, and all the steps, they're codified in a way to get you to servitude, to get you to become a trusted servant. And this step will demonstrate that. It mentions humility 33 times just in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages, 7 pages. It mentions humility, becoming humble. Now, the definition of humble. Now, there's nothing wrong with humility. I mean, I'm not saying that there's something wrong with being humble. I'm just saying there's an agenda to get you to be a servant, to get you to be a trusted servant, okay? Humble in a way that shows or suggests a modest or low estimate of one's self-importance. It's always trying to take yourself away, lower your self-esteem, not raise it. Lower yourself and help others, and that will be the way that you help yourself. They say you must give it away, lest you'll lose it. They use phrases like that constantly. In a way that shows or suggests a modest or low estimate of oneself, meekly. The meek shall inherit the earth. That's where they're getting that from. This program is religious. Now, if you're okay with the religion part of it, I mean, not part of it, if you're okay with the religion because you were in a religion and this religion is more attractive to you, then nothing I'm going to say is going to change your mind because you're enjoying it, and it's if you feel like you're getting something from it. So I'm not going to try to change your mind. I just want to let you know that at least you're not in denial of Alcoholics Anonymous not being. The servant bowed humbly before his master, trusted servants. This is the definition of being humble. Humility, a modest or low view of one's own importance. Humbleness. Because they use the word humiliation a lot. They want us to know that we've been humiliated on a lot of our drunken sprees, which I've had many of them. And yes, I wasn't. I felt humiliated. Yes, I did. Made feel ashamed and foolish by injuring their dignity or self-respect, especially publicly. Ashamed and foolish. But don't we glorify in our war stories and clap to the best ones? The ones, the people that have the greatest humiliating stories, and we love that. We send them. The Alcoholics Anonymous sends them on speakers tours, and they glorify it. Like I said, 33 times in just 6 pages, humility is mentioned, being humble. They don't want you to have any pride in achievement. They want you to focus on the humiliation. There's some truth, look, everything, this is borrowed, but it's codified and written to control, to indoctrinate. A lot of this has truth to it, but it's almost like magic. It's almost like sorcery in a sense, where they use the phrases over and over again, and it gets you to a place where if you're not making coffee or you're not doing some service work, then something's wrong with you. 2, solely by their own intelligence and labor, man will have shaped their own destiny. To satisfy our basic instincts, desires is the main object of life. Well, we know that's not. But we are sure that no class, see, they always like to put us in a class because we're a class of alcoholics, right? Not I am anymore, but you raise your hand, you say, Bobby C. alcoholic, I am alcoholic. No, you're not alcoholic. You're a human being human. No class. They want to put us in a class of people in the world ever made a worse mess of trying to live by this formula than alcoholics. They just want to constantly put us in a class. The crazy part of these books, these pages in these books, it talks about all the problems that we have, all the defects, all the sins, all the mess, and all the foolish things and humiliating things that we've done. But in here, I don't find one tool, one strategy, no coping skills, no cognitive behavioral therapy instruments or tools or lessons to be found. There's only one way, is humbly ask God to remove your shortcomings. The whole program is to get you to God, give your will and your life over to the care. But it's really not to get you to God, it's to get you to AA and make you believe you're believing in God and that God is doing these things for you and AA is doing these things for you, when actually it's you that are doing these things for yourself. You know, I wrote here in the beginning, I will humbly examine my humanity. Yes, I will, and become as honest and open-minded as willing as I choose to be on my terms. Quitting drinking, stopping is an AA's goal. Really, quitting drinking is just the beginning. And I tell you that over and over again. That was just a symptom. Their object is to get you to God and get you to believe that there's only one cure, and that is Alcoholics Anonymous. You have a disease of alcoholism. You are not responsible, so give the responsibility over to us, and we will show you the way. And that's why it's codified 1 to 12, to get you to their way. Now, they say there's no must, right? They always say there's no must. And I keep on telling everybody on the podcast about the must, you know. Let's see, here's one here. Flaws that made problem drinkers of us in the first place. Flaws which must be dealt with to prevent a retreat into alcoholism again. So if you go out and drink again, you're retreating back into alcoholism. You know, you don't have it, you lose it, and then you go retreat and get it again. But they say you always have it. Once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Once a drug addict, always a drug addict. I don't buy that. That's not true. They talk about surrender. See, they surrender to the fact that you're defeated. They want us always to surrender. Only one way, giving your will and your life over to the care of AA or God. Surrender to the fact that you're defected through humiliation, and we must drop to our knees and ask God to help us. I alone am waiting for the Father. There's a lot of this in the book that I agree with. There's not a lot, there's some, you know, if you really dissect it and take the brainwashing and the indoctrination and the repetition out constantly. You know, it talks about good character. I believe to try to, best of my ability, to get some good character. And, you know, over and over again, it says humble, humility, humble, humility. To be willing to work for humility as something to be desired for itself takes most of us a long, long time. A whole lifetime geared to self-centeredness. It's always like self-centeredness, like self is worthless, right? Here's another must at the bottom here on page 73. But again, we are driven on by this inescapable conclusion, which we draw from AA's experience, that we surely must try with a will or else fall by the wayside. It's always you're going to fall. You're going to fail. You're going to fall if you don't do the steps. And then when you fall, we always have an excuse, always. I've been around in these meetings for so long, and when people come back, they didn't do step 4 right. They didn't get step 1 because you got to do that 100%. They didn't get a sponsor. They didn't give their will and life over to the care of God. They don't have a higher power. They don't have a sponsor. There's always We could come up with all kinds of excuses. It's never us that, like, it's never my responsibility really that I drank because I chose to do it and I wanted to pick up and it felt good and that's why I did it. Let's see, 5. Here we go. Coercion. Look up the word. I don't know if yeah. Coercion. The practice of persuading someone to do something by using force or threats. Coercion. It says it right here. Page 74. It uses that word, coercion. Listen, at this stage of our progress, we are under heavy pressure and coercion to do the right thing. Yeah, we are. In Alcoholics Anonymous, it's 100% true. We are under heavy pressure and coercion by Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps, the big book, sponsors, repetition, phrases over and over again, the humiliation of going back out. Yeah, they tell us we're humiliated because when we come back, we're shamed. Oh, you lost all your time. Here's another chip or a ring or a keychain or whatever. Here's another chip. Get this one. Start over again. Start another 24 hours. Like everything you learned for the month or the week or the year or the 5 years. Start back at day one. They talk about the newcomer coming in. When 6, let's see, 6 of myself, it says it right here. Right here. I'm right. I read it before. Of myself. Self is nothing. You must conform to the program and leave yourself at the doorstep and give yourself and will over to the care. Many of us who had thought ourselves religious awoke to the limitations of this attitude. Refusing to place God first, we had deprived ourselves his help. But now the word, of myself I am nothing. Of myself I am nothing. The Father doeth thy works. The Father doeth thy works. Began to carry bright promise and meaning. I'm nothing. Father doeth the work. Surrender. Give my will and life over. Humbly ask God to remove these defects. We would like to assume that the grace of God can do for us what we could not do for ourselves. We would like to be assured that the grace of God can do for us what we could not do for ourselves. Don't take credit for nothing. You're not responsible. Don't take the credit. Lower your self-esteem, actually. Become better servants, trusted servants. Here we go. Now listen to this. Move out from ourselves towards God. When we admitted that we were powerless over alcohol and came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, if that degree of humility could enable us to find the grace by which such deadly obsessions could be banished. That's why I'm going to label this the exorcism of alcoholism, because the sponsor, which is the priest, is going to help banish. They use the word obsession could be banished. Just like in the previous step, step 6, ask God to give me a release. My obsession vanished. When I asked God to give me a release, my obsession vanished. They used vanished in step 3. They used banished. Banished, B, in step 7. So it's really just humble to get you, to get us, to get people. Now, like I said again, if you're going to step meetings, listen to one of these podcasts prior to going to a step meeting. Then you make your own decision, not from what I'm saying. You do your own research. You go to the meeting and do a step, open up a step book and read it and listen to others. And then listen to this podcast, Deprogramming podcast. At least you'll have some other information in your consciousness. And you won't be getting everything subliminally, osmosisly. And if you don't go to step meetings or big book meetings, like I said, you're still getting this information, still getting into your brain. So check out other alternative programs, methods. Some I don't agree with, definitely. I believe 100% that alcohol has an effect on thinking. I've done many things that I would never have done if I wasn't drinking, and it affects your thinking completely. Some programs want to say, Alcoholics Anonymous says, don't drink, don't think, and go to meetings. And some of these new programs, these new models say, drink, don't think, because your thinking ain't going to, if you do drink moderately, there's no chance of it affecting your thinking. And go to join up for memberships and come to their sessions, which they call, like they say, and it's not a program, but they use other names for it. And come to us. We'll charge you, and we're gonna try to sell you a belief system that we searched out because it was there's scientific evidence, which is just a belief and a study. So they believe a belief, and just check things out, do your own research, and stay tuned for step 8, which 8 and 9 is, wait till you get to that. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.